The plans for Wolverine and Deadpool will always be where can we get them and how quickly and how much. We sort of started the whole machine back up again as we figured out what the grand storyline would be. Now we know very much what the grand storyline is leading up to Secret Wars, but also beyond. And you already mentioned one of them, which is X-Men. So a lot of those characters you'll see either in the culmination of Secret Wars or where we start to gear up in the future post-Secret Wars.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel has repeatedly made jokes about how they're going to make Hugh Jackman be Wolverine for the rest of his natural life. But now it looks like we're actually hearing more of the actual details for what that new contract looks like through the next era of Marvel movies. When he came back as Wolverine for Deadpool and Wolverine, he signed a larger contract for the next couple of years. I'll explain the difference between that and what movies he'd already agreed to come back for on top of Deadpool and Wolverine, and the new contract that they're signing him to, which is way bigger than that for even more movies. They haven't literally locked him down till he's 90, but I wouldn't be surprised if that Ryan Reynolds Deadpool joke winds up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And trying to look like a superhero and move like an even younger Tom Holland.
If that does wind up happening, you can blame him for that. So if you're brand new to the channel, we're actually doing that giveaway for Captain America Brave New World tickets. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know which other Marvel movies you want to see Hugh Jackman come back for during the X-Men era of Marvel after Secret Wars. If you didn't see that news recently though, Hugh Jackman has already been working out a newer, bigger contract with Marvel that's going to cover the next 10 years worth of Marvel movies. It's not quite the same situation as the classic era of Marvel Phase 1 contracts that most of the original Avengers actors had to sign when they first became their characters. Robert Downey Jr. is like one of the few exceptions to that too. His deal is famous for them only signing him to that first Iron Man movie, so when he came back for all the sequels and all the other movies, that's where his famous contract that's got him paid so well started. But all the other Avengers actors had to sign 6-picture deals, which was pretty unheard of for Hollywood at the time, so we're talking about the late 2000s when this is all going down. At the time, Kevin Feige and Marvel wanted to control the creation of the MCU so much, like he had such big plans for how Marvel would pan out. They wanted to have the freedom of being able to put actors in whichever movies that they wanted when they wanted to do it. They also didn't want to have to deal with actors dropping out at the last minute from sequels down the road or having to recast everybody in the middle of the lead up to that first Avengers film. Looking at you, Edward Norton, Mark Ruffalo, Terrence Howard, Don Cheadle, you could see that they still had to deal with that a couple times. Typically when actors signed on for big franchise movies like this, like the Batman movies back in the day, things like that, it was only for trilogies. The 6-movie deal for Marvel at the time was meant to cover 3 Avengers movies plus a trilogy for each of the characters. Most of those original Avengers actors had to re-sign a contract to come back for Avengers Endgame because originally Avengers Infinity War was meant to be a single movie when Kevin Feige was plotting things out way back in the beginning of Marvel Phase 1. They'd only assumed that they'd try to do a trilogy of Avengers movies, but once they actually started to develop Infinity War in the 2010s, they split it into 2 movies, creating the need to sign another deal with everyone to come back for Avengers Endgame. That was why everybody got paid so well for Endgame. People like Chris Hemsworth, who then agreed to come back for a 4th movie after Avengers Endgame like Thor Love and Thunder, other actors who came back for more Marvel movies like Samuel L. Jackson, people who agreed to come back for the Disney Plus TV shows, all that was brand new stuff they had to sign new contracts for. One of the exceptions to this is Tom Holland with all of his Spider-Man stuff, so he doesn't have a contract with Marvel for all the Spider-Man movies. His contract is actually with Sony, and Sony then signs a deal to share Spider-Man with Marvel for the specific movies that you see him in. And because we're talking about Hugh Jackman signing another brand new, bigger deal, Tom Holland literally just did that for the next trilogy of Spider-Man movies and a couple more Avengers movies, basically. Tom Holland's last contract was up after Spider-Man No Way Home. Hugh Jackman's contract to come back for Deadpool and Wolverine was only for Deadpool and Wolverine in Avengers 6 Secret Wars. And then unlike the other old school Marvel contracts, the wording on his deal was only that they would do more with the character beyond that. Like they were just leaving the door open for him to come back more if he wanted to, but not forcing him to come back. Then Deadpool and Wolverine blew up at the box office, became one of the highest earning comic book movies of all time. Ryan Reynolds made all those jokes that now they're going to force him to come back until he's 90. And right after the movie came out, Kevin Feige was publicly saying that they wanted to get Deadpool and Wolverine back in as many Marvel movies as possible as fast as possible, like stat. Get them in all the movies right now. This is why you've been hearing all the talk of them also coming back for Avengers Doomsday, because that movie is meant to mostly take place inside the MCU, and at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine and Deadpool are still in that main X-Men universe. So if they're going to be in Avengers Doomsday, they either have to have a tag scene in their universe, or they have to somehow bring them to the MCU through the TVA or some other means. Marvel really doesn't care about those kinds of details, like they just want to get them in all the movies. So at least on a story level, how they accomplish that isn't that important to them. But this is where we get to this new Wolverine contract that everybody's been talking about the last couple days. The one that's supposed to cover the next 10 years of Marvel movies.
Now we know very much what the grand storyline is leading up to Secret Wars, but also beyond.
It sounds like the report is that Marvel only wants him to continue as his Wolverine here for the next 10 years, and during that time, supposedly they want him to finish a trilogy of Deadpool and Wolverine movies. I think the reason for the 10 years is just because that's a round-sounding number, and because of Ryan Reynolds' comments that he was going to wait a long time before trying to make another Deadpool movie, and until then, he just cross over into other people's movies. This is Ryan Reynolds literally talking about that.
If he comes back, it's going to be in a someone else's movie.
No, but seriously though, what does the future hold?
Yeah, Channing Tatum, so excited to play Gambit, and I would happily be the fifth banana in his movie or anyone else.
Personally, I think the same idea is true for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Like, he would love to come back and do more Marvel, but he doesn't want to come back as much as you would need to for a bunch of solo movies where you're like the main character in most of the scenes. It's way easier for these actors to show up for a couple days, guest star, cross over into somebody else's movie, then leave a couple days later, instead of having to spend 6 months of their lives 24/7 trying to make a good movie. Ryan Reynolds has been very public about the toll that making Deadpool movies takes on both his mind, his body, and his relationship with his family, which is the main reason why he's waiting so long before even attempting to make another Deadpool solo movie. It's the same situation with Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. Like, the older that he gets, the bigger the toll it takes on his body. So it's way easier for him to just cross over, cameo in other people's movies. But this new deal would also have Hugh Jackman showing up in some of these new X-Men based movies that'll happen in the next era of Marvel after Secret Wars. We've been calling it the Mutant Saga, you can call it Marvel Phase 7. Marvel will probably have some more literal terms after Secret Wars is released, like prepare for the next era of Marvel, the Mutant Era. But this would also allow them to pay off bigger teasers for iconic Wolverine moments from the comics that they haven't really done yet in bigger ways or anything but really short bits, like actual Wolverine versus Hulk in a movie. We've been hearing all these Hulk plans that Marvel has in the next several years through Secret Wars, doing a version of World War Hulks, doing a version of Wolverine versus Hulk. You could do all that in the same movie and just have Hugh Jackman cameo in that movie as his Wolverine, and it just happens to be a World War Hulk movie. Coming back for the next era of Marvel would also allow Hugh Jackman to be involved in something like Avengers vs. X-Men when they're ready to do that down the line. That'll probably take the place of what they would have originally done for Avengers 7, like just do it as an X-Men vs. Avengers or Avengers vs. X-Men movie, whatever you want to title it. Will people be too fatigued by Avengers movies by that time? Should we just bill it as an X-Men movie with the Avengers in it? But at the rate they're developing all the characters, it's going to take them at least 7 to 8 years to get to that movie. Like, we're still talking about Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars and years away from those movies actually releasing. But also on top of this, reportedly the Russos are supposed to be working out a deal to return to direct more Marvel movies in that next era of Marvel, the Mutant Saga of Marvel. But that's a totally separate thing from Hugh Jackman agreeing to come back for that era too. Just looking at all the rumors that are out there, I'm less bullish on a Deadpool and Wolverine trilogy. Like, I personally do not think that Ryan Reynolds is going to want to make 2 more Deadpool and Wolverine movies in the next 10 years. I would say if we're lucky, he makes 1 more Deadpool solo movie, and that winds up being Deadpool and Wolverine 2. But they both said that they would love to come back and do more Marvel. So all that other time, like the rest of those 10 years that we're talking about, would be them just showing up in Avengers movies, other X-Men movies that they start doing, other people's movies just in general. which personally I am totally fine with. Like, I'm totally fine with them introducing a new main MCU Wolverine with a younger, like a totally different actor, and just putting him in most of the big solo movies, and just bringing in Hugh Jackman's Wolverine for the really big stuff. Part of the idea, too, is that Deadpool is going to be coming to the MCU after Secret Wars on a permanent basis. Like, he's over in the X-Men universe right now at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine. Secret Wars is basically going to soft reboot the MCU, and going forward, everybody is basically going to be inside the MCU. And because they're bringing Deadpool from that universe, it makes sense that they'd also try to bring Hugh Jackman's Wolverine to the MCU as well, too. There's still a lot of questions logically about some of these legacy actors that keep coming back and will probably continue to come back for cameo scenes in the future if they're trying to simplify things with just like one main MCU going forward for everybody after Secret Wars. So we will see how that all works out, but just do not be surprised if you still see legacy actors coming back for cameo scenes way down the road in like 10 plus years. But everyone, let me know in the comments, if Hugh Jackman is going to come back again as Wolverine for like the next 10 years, which other movies do you want to see him cameo in? Like, which X-Men movies should he show up in if he's not going to be the main version of Wolverine in the next like 5 or 6 years? One of the other really easy things that they can do if they're going to keep him coming back until he's 90 is just let him naturally age into the old man Logan from the comics. The version that we saw in Deadpool and Wolverine, they had to put him in old age makeup to age him up for that. So just wait like 15 more years and he can actually look like that without any of the makeup. Would totally love to see an Old Man Logan movie based more on the comics that they just treat as an Elseworlds kind of movie way down the road. Really old version of the Hulk versus a really old version of Wolverine, and a really old version of all the other characters. By that time, all the original Avengers actors, all the X-Men actors that could come back for that would also look really old, so it would just fit way more to be more comic book accurate. But you would kind of have to treat it as an Elseworlds type of movie. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up next week. We have new Spider-Man episodes I'll be doing videos for. The Super Bowl will be in a couple more weeks. We'll get a bunch of trailers. Probably going to get that first Fantastic Four trailer too. And we're probably going to get more Daredevil Born Again footage. So be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here for my Daredevil Born Again trailer video, and click here to learn about all the confirmed actors that are showing up in Avengers Doomsday. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.